If you could keep just one thing that you could hold on to, what would that one thing be? Do you have things around you that have deep sentimental value and are very precious to you? Yes? Me too. Most of those things, I dare say, might not be important to other people in the way that they are to you, but still, they have some value to you, don't they? My name is Ian Currey, and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. While thinking about what I would say in this video, I wondered how I'd answer that question, and the ones I'm asking you in this video. What one thing would you hold on to if you could only choose one thing? It's hard, isn't it? Another question to go with that one is, what things do you hold on to so tightly that are actually things that are holding you back or tripping you up even? I don't have a lot of things I hold very closely, but still it's a hard question to answer. What about you? Can you think of, say, 5 things that have real sentimental value to you? Well, my wedding ring, I suppose. That's important and means a lot. I think in our case, Hilary and I have been through so many things together that possessions are perhaps a bit less important than for many people. There are a few things that I know Hilary is very fond of. Things I wouldn't have expected, and unless I were very observant, wouldn't know about. It's probably the same for me. I'm sure Hilary would know which coffee mug I particularly like, or which chair I usually sit in, perhaps. I suppose certain things in the train room might be important to me if I were really honest, if I was having to dig around the things not to get rid of. Perhaps surprisingly, one of the things from there that would be salvaged more readily than other things has very little monetary value. I think it might be this little vehicle here. It's a model of a street organ or fairground organ. Now, I've often thought about building one, but I've no idea how I would do that or where I'd put it if I did. I love the simple and yet clever solutions to problems these ingenious machines have had to overcome. This one is a model of one I saw being worked on years ago in a parking lot across the street from my office. Fascinating, and certainly a hobby that I would need to be very careful about how much time it ate from. Sure, it would be very complicated. But even that, despite the memories and the dreams it might hold, I wouldn't say I can't live without it. No, that would be silly. Perhaps with Hilary it's easier because twice we've suddenly lost everything. Many years ago we were on a ship that sank. The ship was our home and we had a lot of our stuff there. Things like wedding photographs and so on that really can't be replaced. Suddenly all of that was gone in an instant. But losing those photographs doesn't mean we aren't married. So in a way it's more memories that they carry. The sentimental value perhaps more than anything. Years later our house was flooded one night when we lived in the north of England. We look back on that and wonder how we got through it. But we did. And although we lost a great deal then too, stuff seems to have accumulated again, and the house here is full of things that sometimes seem to be multiplying while we're asleep. In the flood situation, guess what? The very first thing we grabbed from the rising water was photo albums. I wonder why. I suppose we'd learned the hard way that those are not replaceable. The thing is, though, that really we all know that however hard we try hanging on to things, it never works in the long run. As we get older, things become less easy to let go of too. But ultimately, of course, we all have to. One of my favourite quotes is from Jim Elliot, who famously said, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." Someone recently asked me why I like the quote so much. I think I like it on several levels. I think perhaps at a superficial level, it's a good reminder not to hold on to things so tightly that we can't ultimately keep, rather than being generous with our stuff and receiving the thanks and appreciation that goes with that. At a little deeper level, giving our lives to something, perhaps an important cause or something, ultimately can bring rewards, and those are priceless, that can't be taken away from us. Now, Jim wrote the statement a short time before he was killed by the very people he was trying to help. In a way, you could say he laid down his life for them. Now, years later, I met his wife and some of the people that were involved back there in the jungle. A good friend of mine spent many years working in the same area, helping with medical and educational needs for the very same people Jim was trying to help. Jim died before I was born, but still had an influence on my life all those years later. He certainly held on to something important, but what he held dear to him wasn't stuff, was it? Now, both Paul and Jesus had something to say about this kind of thing too. Paul put it in terms of running a race with a great crowd watching to see how we were getting on. I don't think all those people watching in that analogy were supporters in this instance, but there is so much tied up in those couple of sentences. Certainly one aspect of it is how people watch us live out our faith or put into practice what we say we believe. When it gets tough, do we slow down or quit? Are we easily distracted from what we say is the main thing? Do we still care for people in the way that we say we do when times are tough? If what we say we believe is real, then those watching, those looking on so carefully will notice it. And if we actually hang on to the things that really aren't important in the grand scheme of things. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip away every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. Jesus too spelled out how stuff could be a distraction when he was talking to someone who was rather rich. The rich man he was talking to seemed to have tried to do all the right things and had played by the rules, as it were, but still he hung on to stuff rather tightly, it seems. Jesus famously said, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." That by no means says you can't have stuff. No, not at all. It just means that if you hold it too dearly or too closely and it becomes more important than it should be, then that becomes a distraction from the main thing. Now, one of the things people like me who work in the airline industry notice in any past emergency situation or something we've seen on the news is that when an emergency happens, what do people do with their possessions? Now, there's been a number of incidents that you may have seen in the news in the past that you can see people running from an aircraft or from a building or standing on the wing or whatever, having evacuated presumably a life-threatening situation, and yet somehow they took the time to stop and grab a bag or whatever other possessions they had with them instead of just leaving it all and getting out. Can you imagine the delay that caused for others escaping behind them? I'm sure if you look at those images of those rare incidents now, you'll notice those things in just the same way I do. Yes, I too have an attachment to things around me, the things that perhaps contribute to who I've become. I have some sentimental attachments to a few things too, but am I willing to let those things define me? I hope not. Can I really walk away from everything, all the stuff, and still be me? It's a good question, isn't it? What would be the things that are hardest for you to let go of? Are there really things that you can't live without? Or are those things just stuff that has become a weight that holds you back? Oh, and if a flight attendant or ship crew ever say, come this way, leave everything, leave it behind. It may be the second or two that makes all the difference. Until next time, goodbye.